Hi, and welcome to the Authentically ADHD Burnout course. I'm so glad that you are here because ADHDers definitely struggle from burnout way more than neurotypical people do. We reach it faster and it can look different. It's also very dangerous. From the clients that I've had that have gone through it and from my personal experience, I can tell you that burnout is dangerous. It's dangerous to your mental health and your physical health. So there is a workbook attached to these audios, and you can use that to follow along. I'll have questions in there and things that I ask from the course and other tools that you can use to help create a life that helps prevent the burnout. Okay. So let's talk about what is burnout. What's specifically ADHD burnout? What is that? So the thing about burnout in a neurodiverse brain is that we already have a deficit in our capacity, our ability to self-reflect and manage time. So we fall into a hyperfocus or hyperfixation. We tend to get more dopamine from finishing like all of those things, right? Or more. So we get the dopamine from that hyperfixation, and then, you know, we are people pleasing after that. We start people pleasing, and that helps us take on more. We decide to take on more and then a little bit more until we get past our capacity, which is the amount that we can hold or do, the cap off, right? And before you know it, you're not really eating. You're drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, and you're working yourself down to the bone while self medicating to keep up. This will lead to the beginning and middle stages of burnout symptoms, and your quality of work is going to suffer. You forget what you agreed to, you miss deadlines, run late, you feel like you're in chaos. This leads to guilt, shame, and negative self talk. Before you know it, you go into ADHD paralysis, which looks like complete shutdown. This can lead to quitting, illness, mental health episodes. So I would consider those to be like episodes you need to stay home and like sleep, episodes that end you up in the hospital, etc. Chronic stress and exhaustion can even land you, like I said, in the hospital. Ask me how. I know. Actually, please don't. Because if you couldn't tell by this, it has led me into the hospital. Before we, okay, because we have to process sensory input and output differently than a neurotypical, we mask to fit the social norms, okay? And we are masking more when we are in burnout until we can't anymore. We experience ableism, and so our guilt and our shame is super strong. Ableism is a term that means we are treated like neurotypicals by other people. Sometimes we are ableist to ourselves and we think we can do more than we can actually do. That's exceeding your capacity. I also mentioned that we have lower executive functioning skills that can lead to burnout, such as low self awareness, lack of organization, lack of working memory, lack of time management, emotional dysregulation, among so many other things that we struggle with as neurodiverse brains. This is why we experience it so much and so much more often than neurotypical people. We also tend to stay in the cycle for longer and we get stuck in it more often because we aren't able to be self-aware enough to recognize it. We have low self-reflection skills and poor working memory to actually remember the signs and symptoms of ADHD burnout. This can lead to chronic stress, guilt, and full-on burnout, making it harder to recover, which can end us up in the hospital in order to get better. I've experienced every single level of burnout, all the way to the hospital. I couldn't tell the difference between stress, burnout, and complete just mentally sick and done. I was a huge people pleaser. I said yes to everybody. I had no self reflection or awareness skills. And I wasn't using strategies for self care and recovery because I had no idea that I was in burnout. I was telling myself that I was dumb, stupid, not working hard enough because I lived most of my life as an undiagnosed neurodivergent. I was affected by ableism, criticism, overcorrection, and rejection. My mind to me, like my mind went to me, I was the problem. That's what my brain told me. Even though I was trying to do 20 times the work that I was able to. So, how do we recognize that we're in burnout or even completely burnt out? Like I mentioned before, it does take some self awareness. You need to build in check in times to really assess how you're feeling. That means connecting with that thing that we hate, our emotions, your capacity, and building your executive functioning skills along with accommodating for them. That will drive, like, that will drive the recovery. We will dig deeper into this in audios 3 and 4. So, what does ADHD burnout feel like? What are the symptoms, signs, and red flags of I'm in the throes of burnout? Now, these symptoms vary in levels and severity for all different people. The trickiest thing about burnout and the cycles of it is that usually for ADHDers, the first 2 stages of burnout actually feel kind of good, which sucks, but it means that we are gaining dopamine from being extremely productive and people pleasing those around us. Those are 2 signs: a busy schedule with no breaks and people pleasing. Of course, it's hard to notice, especially if you're used to working past your capacity. Plus, again, we lack that self awareness to tell us, hey, you're working past your capacity, you're burning out. When we get to the 3rd stage, we usually end up using substances or unhealthy habits to keep up with the busy schedule nonstop. This can include sleeping less, drinking more coffee, pushing aside self care, and feeling some guilt, but powering through anyway. A lot of the bigger signs and symptoms can be recognized with some self awareness, like the isolation, getting ill more often, depression, appetite changes, negative thought patterns, low work quality, decreased motivation, decreased productivity, more pain in your body, feelings of inadequacy, headaches, overwhelm, high irritability. There are a ton of them. Exhaustion is another one. You may feel completely exhausted and unable to complete your work throughout the weeks. This is also not something that we can do in a 4-course online time span, okay? It does take time, but it's doable. I'm proof, okay? So, this is the end of class 1. So, I want to know, or write it down. What is your biggest takeaway from the first audio? Next time, we will talk about preventing, recovering from burnout, and managing your ADHD around burnout. Hi, welcome back. Welcome to class 2. We are going to dive right into what do you do when you're deep in burnout and how to manage and prevent future burnout episodes from happening. So, to recognize that we are even in burnout, it takes some level of self awareness. Usually, we don't even know we are in burnout until we are exhausted. We're feeling a ton of the symptoms, and basically until we need to stop everything we're doing in order to recover. I've been through it. I used to get stuck in this cycle, and it's not healthy to continue to work like this. So I created routines and I built in supports to get out of and prevent the next burnout cycle. Because in the beginning of the cycle, like I said, we actually feel good. We get dopamine from all the things that we're getting done, from all of the people pleasing that we're doing. It would be ideal to be able to stop the cycle right around there so we don't get in too deep. Because as Dr. Barkley says, we overestimate how much we can get done in the short term, and we underestimate how much of the things we can get done in the long term. This is why we cannot build out the steps of a long-term project. We can't break those down in our brains. We are also unaware of our capacity. Can we add to the capacity that's already there? Like, we add to it. Our emotional capacity, which is, self-regulation, irregulation of people around you. Emotional capacity also includes things that are going on in your life. Maybe you had a fight with your friend, your significant other. We also have mental capacity. This has to do with anything that's required of your job, some paperwork, answering questions throughout the day if you're a teacher or if you have children yourself. And then there's, anything else that mentally fatigues you. And then there's physical capacity, right? That could be a job that has heavy, hard work like construction, or in my opinion, teaching. And then working out too much because we, feel we want that dopamine from that working out. Do you see how a lot of it is dopamine chasing? So, what happens a lot of the time is that we set ourselves up for the burnout cycle by planning each day past our capacity. The days that we feel the utmost hyper focus and motivation, and all of it has blown in, and we think we can work like that every day. But these days are so rare. They happen like, I don't know, once or twice a month. So, the first step to preventing burnout is to become more self aware. Build your awareness of self by writing out your thoughts and your emotions, by checking in with yourself and your capacity to make sure that you're not planning to work past it. I actually check in with my capacity quite a few times a day now. I used to not even know what that meant. Like, check in with my capacity. What does that mean? It means sitting down, stopping, and assessing how you feel. Another step you can take to recognize burnout is to recognize our stressors and differentiate them from our stress. Yes, stress and stressors are different things. A stressor is a person, a place, or a thing that sets off your stress, a hormonal response to something that your brain labels as dangerous. See, if you can separate your stressors from the actual why behind it, because there are uncontrollable stressors like work duties, traffic, and how other people act, but there are also controllable stressors like being late, your schedule, and money management. So I'd invite you to write it down. What is controllable? What is not? What are your stressors? What causes your stress? And how do you handle that stress? I have this amazing book that I have listened to probably, I don't know, 10 times through already. It's called Burnout, and it's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. They wrote it together, and it explains how we can end our stress response cycle so that stress isn't the driver, of our burnout. So, what they recommend is identifying your stressor, the ones you can control and the ones that you can't control, and then make a plan to end your stress response cycle. It can include anything that gets your heart rate up: walking, running, jumping, doing jumping jacks, dancing, and then calming your brain by meditating, journaling, reading, or listening to some music, doing a calming activity that you enjoy. This way, we can find out what is causing your stress and how to end the cycle. So, this book is also really good because it comes on audio. I think it's also physical too. I mean, obviously, all books probably are. I prefer audio over anything else. Like, if it's a video I need to watch, no, I need to be moving around, so I can't have a screen in front of me all the time. But if whatever way works for you, that book is really good. It includes a lot of like funny anecdotes and stories and things that go along with getting burnt out, how it feels, and like a bunch of the different reasons, like why those things happen. So, how can we get out of burnout? It's kind of a trick question here because you have to, if you haven't built up your self awareness and your skills and strategies and habits, then you will stay stuck in the cycle of burnout. But here's the thing, you're here, so you've gotten started. But I want you to think about it. You're in the deep of burnout, not sleeping, not eating well, not taking care of yourself. And what happens? We withdraw, we quit, we hide, and procrastinate until like the cycle literally starts over. This is called chronic burnout. And a lot of times, as ADHDers, we get stuck in this exhausting cycle. Falling into the cycle is easy. Breaking the cycle takes time and it takes work. Breaking the cycle starts with, yep, you guessed it, self awareness. Being aware of your capacity and how much you're handling your stress and how much you have agreed to do. The real question ends up being, how do we create habits and strategies to prevent the burnout cycle, which is harder than we think. This is why it takes time, because we need to change habits, build in accommodations, and really take a look inside ourselves. That's not easy. Believe me, I know, but it is so, so worth it. In order to start that self awareness piece, start writing down your most common symptoms of burnout. What leads you to that state of overwhelm and shutdown? What does it for you? What are the things that you notice you feel when you're burnt out? Some people take on too much at work. Some take on too much in their social lives, and some put in the work on themselves. Now, we all experience burnout differently. So, what are some signs that you can recognize for you? For me, I would get burned out by taking on a lot at work, people pleasing in my social life and putting more and more on myself within my coaching and my podcasting business. Some ways to prevent burnout are to be realistic with your daily tasks and schedule. Okay? And this part is hard because it involves prioritization, which we suck at and we hate. You want to try to make sure that you are making plans for reality, not that most productive version of you. Okay. Another way is to build in a support system of safe people who love and care about you. Because as ADHDers, we forget how important having connection is. Another big part of preventing burnout is treating your ADHD, however that looks like for you. For me, it means taking my meds, going to therapy, engaging in my group coaching program, and making sure I take care of my basic needs. Get yourself outside, step away from the devices. Nature is such a wonderful form of nurture for us. I mean, if you can get outside, do it as much as you can. Develop some hobbies. I know this one is hard. It was hard for me too. I like to color, I like to paint, I like to hike. Find things that you like to do. Maybe you like to play video games. I also like to binge watch TV shows. Some of these things we can get carried away with, but don't cut them out of your life completely. Make them a thing that you can do to reward yourself for getting a task done. Like after I get these audios recorded, I get to go outside and enjoy the rest of my day. So, preventing burnout involves also putting in accommodations for yourself, delegating tasks. So, giving other people the things that they can do, things you don't have to do. It involves taking time to rest and recharge and connect within yourself. Okay? Connect to your passions and attending to the sensory overload, aka the overstimulation that we deal with. Like I've been telling you, this is not going to be easy, but these are things I had to learn, like the 7 types of rest for the ADHD brain, how to set boundaries with other people and for myself, learning what self care truly was and engaging in it. Most people with ADHD do not know how to rest. We think that resting is just laying still, but like we think that we know how to rest. Resting is not just lying still or sleeping or meditating, okay? There are active ways you can engage in rest and recharge your mind and body. So let's talk about the 7 types of rest and how to know which type you may need at the moment. So if you didn't know, which I didn't know until like when I was researching for this course, that there are 7 types of rest that your body needs, because rest doesn't just apply to the body. It applies to the brain too. So the 7 types are physical, mental, emotional, sensory, creative, social, and spiritual. Each type shows up in a different way when you need it and takes a different type of strategy to like attain that type of rest. So let's get into it. Physical rest. This is that feeling of tired, exhaustion, or having tension, pain, or soreness in your body. To get the physical rest, it's simple. Start by getting enough sleep or trying to, doing some yoga, meditation, taking naps, and building in breaks during your day. Maybe even treat yourself to a massage. Then there's mental rest. We know we need it when it's harder to focus, you have more brain fog, you are easily distracted and or decision fatigued. You get, just completely distracted within yourself or within your workplace or at home. So to get mental rest, try to do a digital detox. Leave all your devices inside and go outside and be in nature. And this whole digital detox thing, it applies to all the things I'm about to say. So like put the stuff away, put the devices away, and journal, schedule, like make sure that you are relaxing, okay? Like turning your brain off. So you need to schedule your work and your time so it's not in the back of your head all day. So get it out of your head and put it on paper. Emotional rest is number 3. This is when we're more irritable. We cannot regulate our emotions well, and there are more of them, way more emotions. Emotional rest consists of learning how to identify and process your emotions, creating boundaries for people who you do not have capacity for, and having authentic connection with emotionally safe people. Sensory rest is needed when you're feeling overstimulated, a little extra jumpy, and or you just feel really overwhelmed. To obtain sensory rest differs for everyone. It could be nature, a dark room, a dark shower, or using a certain meditation, and including certain sounds with those if you can, like lo-fi, brown, and white noise. The next one is creative rest, and this is needed when we feel our creative motivation dwindling. We have no motivation for projects we like to do. Being creative is no longer enjoyable. This usually happens with ADHDers who have a creative based job, like such as being a content creator, a podcaster, a book writer, things like that. So to gain creative rest, nature does help. Drawing and painting and writing just to draw, paint, and write. So creating just to create, not for any type of monetary value, but just to do it, just to enjoy it. Something else that we can get creative rest from is engaging in play. It helps us to rest that creative part of our brain. And I know you're like, play? What do you mean? I'm not a kid. You can still play if you're an adult. And I'm sure you know what feels fun for you, right? Social rest is something we need when we are feeling that RSD come on strong. You're feeling rejected, overstimulated in social situations, and or you just want to isolate from social gatherings. To gain social rest, spend some quality time alone with just you, unmask and let yourself just be. And be very selective in your social engagements. Join a support group or community, a supportive community of people that, do the same hobby that you do, or fitness, a sport. Join an ADHD community. These are places that you can go and unmask. Spiritual rest is needed when you feel a lack of sense of purpose and or fulfillment in life. So obtaining spiritual rest is different depending on your beliefs and your religious background. So prayer, meditation, reflection, and gratitude are ways to rest in a spiritual way. Knowing what type of rest you need and when you need it is essential to preventing ADHD burnout. Usually, what we need is social and physical rest, but a lot of times we do need the other types, we just don't know it. Next class, we will talk about work life balance and how to maintain the prevention of burnout. Hi, and welcome back to class 3, where we're going to talk about work life balance and maintaining prevention of burnout. So, how can we build in ways to persistently prevent ADHD burnout? What is work life balance and how do we obtain it and maintain a way of life that prevents burnout so we stop getting stuck in the cycle? Okay, I really want to put a disclaimer here. You're still going to experience burnout sometimes, even when you implement these types of strategies, okay? I just want to remind you that we are humans, okay? We make mistakes, we get stuck back in the burnout cycle. The biggest thing I want you to learn here is that building in these accommodations will make it so that you can recognize the burnout earlier in the cycle and you can stop it so that you don't end up sick or in the hospital or having to take, a week or more off work. Okay. So, what is work life balance and how does it help us stay out of burnout? A work life balance is a way of living that helps a person by intentionally incorporating self care practices and productivity levels that prevent burnout. A lot of the time, this has to do with our time management, creating boundaries around what we have time for, around our time, and not believing that your productivity equals your worth. ADHDers, again, are not super self aware. I know I kind of sound like a broken record, but that's kind of the point. I want you to remember that we are not super self aware. We're not good at it until we practice. Although I hope you're getting better at it. I hope that you are getting better at it, listener, because hopefully you've been trying to record your thoughts and your emotions. But it is a deficiency, in our executive functions, just like time management is. So we need to first separate our worth from our productivity. As kids, we're praised for getting work done and being productive, and we get rewards for doing things. And so we associate this with our worthiness a lot of the times. This also has to do with a little bit of trauma if you've experienced it. But even like if we aren't productive, we think we are bad. And if we are productive, we think that we are good. This happens for a lot of people, not just neurodivergent people, but as we grow up with these black and white thoughts, we categorize productive and good and unproductive as bad. It's just kind of how our brains develop. And this is what I've learned through lots of coaching, through my early childhood special education. Like I got educated on the child's brain and how it develops. So I want you to get as far away from that mindset as you can. Productivity can be a looming word, but it's literally just producing massive action. I'm being productive right now. because massive action means I'm producing something that can be used, that can be held, that can be seen. What we end up doing is listening to our brain, who doesn't know how to prioritize, telling us that all of the tasks on our to-do list, whether it's actually vital or not, that they are all of the same importance. See, our brains develop with prioritization on a horizontal line. Everything is at the same level, same volume. Now, neurotypical people do have the ability to prioritize. Their brains developed in a way that they can put their tasks in top to down order of prioritization. Okay. We don't have that. So, at first, it's prioritizing, right? A way that I like to do this is writing out all my tasks, writing, is there a due date? Yes or no? Is this assigned to me by somebody or myself? What are the vital things that I need to get done at work and at home to keep things going? These are the things that are directly related to your job description. No one else's. If you are your own boss, you may need an accountability partner or some type of assistant to keep you on track, to reconnect you with your values and decide what is actually vital and what tasks are coulds, shoulds, or just for somebody else to do. That's the next step, is learning how to say no, learning how to delegate. We as ADHDers tend to be people pleasers, so we want to say yes to everyone and everything. And where does that lead? Burnout. So, some options to say instead of yes right away are, let me check my schedule and get back to you. Or, I'd love to help, but I don't have the space to get that done right now. And is there someone else who can take this on? Because my plate is already pretty full. Those are some polite ways that you can tell somebody no. Because saying no more and prioritizing are two skills that are hard, but these skills are important. They take time to learn, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. All of the things I am teaching here take time. But if you're willing to be persistent, keep trying, practicing, and evaluating and adjusting, it will be so worth it, I promise. All the suggestions I've had for you so far are the things that I've done, that my clients have done, and they do work. You just have to find what works for you. So, another strategy that I love doing is an executive function assessment around work. This really helped me to take inventory. Like I wrote out all the executive functions, right? Working memory, organization. There is a template in the workbook to help you kind of write this out. Or just, like use it as a reference and just write on notebook paper if you don't have access to a printer. So just write down those executive functions and use the pages, in the workbook or a notebook, and assess what you excel at. Like put the different things in, like working memory, right? So do I remember to take attendance? No. So an accommodation that I use is an alarm, right? And I put the alarm at around a time that I am near my desk. So because I put the alarm on it first, and it would go off when we were outside playing on the playground. So I would swipe it away, and guess what? I would still forget to take attendance. So I put the alarm at a time that I am most likely going to be near my desk. I do not complete or swipe away or do anything to the alarm or to the thing. Like I may turn the noise off, but like the notification is still going to stay there so that I remember to do it, and then I can hit complete. So like this is one of the ways that it can help you build in supports for yourself at work. You may also be surprised, because there are some things that you're going to be good at. I personally am great at cognitive flexibility. I can change the plans of the day in seconds if I need to. And let's be honest, I work with preschoolers, so that happens all the time. So these things will help you so you're not working over your capacity. One key thing I did to create work-life balance was also separating the two. Some ways I did this were taking my work email off my personal phone. You don't need it there, I promise. And it frees up so much space, first of all, in your phone, and second of all, in your mind. So there you go. Then separate it a little more by writing down your work hours. When do you start work? When do you end work? I have a contract, so I can use those hours. I can use hours I create for myself if I need to stay after once a week, but that's a boundary for me. I only stay after once a week. If I've already stayed after to work or do a meeting or a PLC or a PD, I don't plan another day to stay after. Only on weeks that I don't have anything to stay after for will I plan to stay after to get some work done for me. Going in earlier is actually something that works better for me. I will go in about 30 minutes earlier to get some tasks done because being in that work environment for me helps me to focus and concentrate on what I need to do. Even if you're like me, so like I'm a teacher and I do have to bring work home or stay after to finish it, like I said. You can build in time for that as long as you're staying within your capacity. The way I stay in my capacity is building that boundary. Another part of this balance is to build in breaks into your day. Or, like for me, take the break when your job gives it to you. Slow down, put the work down, don't eat your lunch in front of the screen, take time to recharge. I used to do working lunches every day, but it wasn't giving me any time to rest, reset my brain, or recharge. I used to teach full day, so I would have the same kids all day. Now I teach AM and PM sessions, so I have two different classes and I have lunch in between. This made me realize even more how much I need that reset time. Usually, I spend it outside or in my car, somewhere outside of work, because if I'm at work, I'm more likely to work. ADHDers need that time and space. We need it to let our brains turn off and then turn back on or reset. We have low self awareness again, so being aware of this is difficult. We're usually go, 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 and we don't recognize we are past our capacity until we have crossed the line. Basically, until we are in the cycle of burnout. So, I want you to really, really reflect on that for work life balance. Just in those senses so that you're able to create a work and life balance that you can do, that you can handle. Okay, because next we're going to talk about your capacity. We have three types of capacity that can affect our productivity: mental, emotional, and physical. Mental capacity is the paperwork things you need to do, data, inputting bills, doing bills, taxes, that type of thing. It maybe if you're between jobs right now, your mental overload is applying for them, getting a lot of questions. Okay. If you're a teacher or a parent, you totally understand. Emotional capacity is the regulation of yourself, things that are going on in your life or with other people in your life. So you might be fighting with your mom or your significant other or your child. And it's also, if you have kids or students, regulation, like you're helping kids regulate and learn how to regulate their emotions. That also takes a toll on your emotional capacity. Then there's the physical capacity. That's like how much you move your body and like heavy duty jobs, things that tire out our physical body. These are capacities that we all have, and they all take up automatic space in our capacity that we are kind of unaware of until we pay attention or learn about it. So build awareness by checking in. Some other ways to maintain work life balance is to create a routine or write down your vital tasks, the things you have to get done in a workday. So that way you have it for those days that you have lower capacity. Oh, the next one, you're going to get mad. I feel it already, but leave work at work if you can. This separates the two more physically. So you can't just go pick up your computer and randomly, do work. Also, do a cost benefit analysis of whether you want to disclose to your boss, coworkers, peers at work, etc., that you have ADHD. I'd suggest only telling safe people who you know care about you. Lastly, know your rights. ADHD falls under the Americans for Disabilities Act, meaning you may be able to get accommodations and other supports with the help of your doctor and, your boss. For the next and last class, we will go over how to reflect, evaluate, and adjust what may or may not be working when you are building in these strategies and supports. Welcome to the final and fourth class on burnout. The final and fourth class on my first course, Authentically ADHD Burnout course. I hope that through this course, you have gained self-awareness, understanding, and some actionable steps to take to avoid, manage, and prevent burnout. So let's do a review of a little of what we've talked about so far. Burnout is a cycle that can be extremely dangerous, especially for those of us with ADHD. We lack self awareness, organization, planning, emotional regulation, cognitive dissonance, and cognitive flexibility, and other executive functions that help us to stay out of overwhelm and burnout. We often believe that our productivity equals our worth. We all experience burnout differently, so try to observe what it feels like in your body. Work-life balance is created when you intentionally plan your work versus personal life in a way that does not exceed your capacity and in a way that you can do well at both. I want you to know, and I've said this before, but one course on burnout will not cure your burnout, okay? Nothing is going to cure your burnout, just like nothing is going to cure our ADHD. We just have to learn how to work with our brains instead of fighting them. It takes practice. Practice being self aware. Give yourself compassion instead of shaming and berating yourself. These neurons and pathways are strong. They have built in your brain for years, and it will take some time to override them. I'd invite you to start with self awareness, stream of conscious writing, and checking in with yourself as many times as you remember to a day, or give yourself like 2 reminders beginning and end of day to start. There are pages in the workbook to record what things you may want to try within each area. Use those pages to help you decide what works for you and what doesn't. As ADHDers, we have lower skills in that, like being able to visualize the future as well. I've found that evaluating what I'm doing and looking at is it really working, or if it's not, how can I adjust? How can I change this so that it does work? How can I accommodate this so that it can work? Like I said in, last class, when I set that alarm for taking attendance and I set it the first time, when I went back to evaluate why I still wasn't taking attendance, like, why isn't this working? Like, look more into it. I realized I had it at a time that we were always outside. So I changed the time of the alarm and now it works. So, like, ways you can adjust is you're going to have to drop some of that black and white thinking, because that's the way that our brains tend to be, okay? So there are times that something isn't going to work the first time, and it might not be the tool for you, but sometimes these tools just need to be tweaked or adjusted for your personal needs. We also tend to avoid self-reflection because it feels like failing, which feels terrible. But here's the truth. There is no success without failure. We have to make mistakes and then try to learn from them instead of shaming ourselves and calling ourselves a failure, giving up, and quitting, which is like the last cycle of the ADHD burnout cycle. Stop the cycle and be persistent and try again. Reflect on how much masking affects you. I didn't realize that I didn't really talk about this in a lot of the course, but masking and the cost of ADHD are two things that really, really affect our capacity. Like, if I find after a week of teaching, 5 days of teaching, at like a week that I don't have a mental health day or that we have the day without kids, like, and that's only 4 days and then 3 days without the overstimulation and masking of teaching preschoolers. I notice that when it's 5 days, I have to I sleep. I take naps on the weekend and I just want to be outside and I don't want to look at anything that has to do with work. So, this is a way that you can assess how much your capacity during the week at work, if have traditional job with traditional hours, or how much you're putting on yourself if you are your own boss. Also reflect on how much the cost of ADHD is costing you. Like, are you forgetting to catch up with your friends because you're working too hard? Or are you forgetting to do any of the types of self-care because you are working too much? Those are the types of things that you also need to take into account. This is why burnout is different for the neurodivergent brain. What types of self-care do you want to build into your schedule for during the day to help you with different things like overstimulation at work? I go into the quiet for my lunchtime to reset my brain. Go through those types of rest and take down notes on which types of rest you may need and when. And treat your ADHD, please, whatever that looks like for you. Medication, therapy, coaching, all three. And there's others too. I've had a guest on on my podcast talk about her journey with EMDR therapy and neuro therapy. I forget. It's actually a longer word. I'm pretty sure. I didn't write it down. But there are other things you can do to treat your ADHD. There are natural ways to treat your ADHD. You just need to treat your ADHD. It's a mental health condition that needs to be treated. If you had a heart condition, you'd be treating it, right? You need to treat your brain in the same way you treat your body, with love and kindness. Really, actually, that's another tip, is just to be sure to treat yourself with love and kindness, which means taking care of your basic needs. Take your vitamins, eat, hydrate, move your body, make sure you're getting sleep, take breaks, and learn about your emotions. What sets you off? What gets you going? What makes you upset? All the different things so that you can understand why you're feeling what you're feeling and when, and how to shift that emotion. If you haven't heard my podcast episode on emotional regulation, it's really, really good. I have a couple, but one of them really walks you through how to do that. Please do not reflect to shame yourself, okay? I do not consent to you using this course to shame yourself. Please use it as a reference. Look at it to see what you may need improvement on. Treat it like data, okay? Look at it like it doesn't belong to you. And just look at it like that so that you can distance yourself away from your quote unquote failures, because these are not failures. It's just, you need to just keep trying. That is my advice to you, my friend. That's what I did. And it took a while, but I promise you'll be able to do it. Also, document what you're doing well. Our self-awareness doesn't always allow for us to naturally celebrate our wins. I do this as a daily part of the end of my day. Writing down even one win that you had that day definitely helps you within your confidence and knowing that you can do what you put your mind to. I promise you can. I didn't think I could create a course and actually publish it somewhere for people to access it, but I did. I did. It took me a year to get here, but I did it. And I hope that this course has helped you learn what burnout is, why it's more dangerous, and why we as ADHDers are more susceptible to it. I hope that you walked away with some actionable steps you can take right away. As always, reach out for more support. My summer one-on-one coaching is officially open as of April 11th of 2024. So let's get connected. Contact me. Let's work on making you the best version of you that you can be. Stay authentic, my friends, and we will talk soon.